Hello, Mark Palmquist, cabinet maker, furniture designer, furniture maker. In this video, I'm going to show you how I make a cabinet box. This could be either for kitchen or storage in the living room. In this video, I will show you how I make the carcass. The carcass is basically the box. Drawers or shelves are usually found inside, depending on the particular purpose, but I've made cabinets this way for about 12 years and I've never had any issues. The system works really well and it's pretty quick and pretty fast. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice is this cabinet has 3/4 inch material all the way around. A lot of times it's actually not 3/4 inches, it's actually 18 millimeters. Sometimes it's 19 millimeters. It all depends on the country of origin. But anyway, the first thing you'll notice is the fronts are edge banded. So the fronts of this cabinet are going to be walnut. So I have put walnut edge banding on the front edges. And I used pre-finished birch plywood. So the inside is pre-finished and I don't have to worry about finishing it because it's already finished. All I have to do is wipe some varnish on the front to varnish the front edge. Okay, the next thing you'll notice is the sides go all the way up to the top and all the horizontals are captured within the side walls. And all the joinery is going to be hidden because on top of this will be a countertop. You'll never see the joinery, and I use Kreg pocket screws. Okay, here's my Kreg jig setup. I'm using a corded electric drill. I don't ever have to worry about the battery running out. I made this board to mount it on, and this is exactly flush with that. And then this is also flush, so if I'm doing a large panel, and this extends over here as well. These are fixed to my bench. This workstation is always here. This is where I do all the Kreg jigging. This table is actually my chop saw table as well. And I have these blocks here that are exactly the same height as that. And I have 3 of them and they go that way. I could cut something 10 foot long. I have space for 10 foot chopping. Okay, so the next thing to observe is, so the cool thing about the Kreg jig is it's adjustable. And one thing you'll notice here, if you notice that the depth of this bit is not 3/4, because 3/4 would be thicker than the actual thickness of the plywood. So you have to set it so that it's a little bit more shallow than 3/4. And I just basically eye it about 1 millimeter less. This keeps the screw heads from popping through the material. It's very important to note that you cannot just set it on the 3/4 mark. The depth here is set on exactly 3/4. Another thing I always have here is I always have this adjustment wrench, this Allen key, and I always have this. This is always sitting here. You have to tighten this nut when you adjust this. Otherwise, it'll just spin on its own. When you slide the panel through here to move it to the next position, sometimes this will spin, and so you always have to have this handy to tighten it so it doesn't loosen itself. And then you will notice that I have a holster for my drill. I just basically screwed that to the bottom of my work table and made sure that the hole is larger than the chuck. And that allows me to rest the drill while I move the panel. Okay, so I will demonstrate. Okay, you want this to be fairly tight. Every once in a while you have to blow the dust out of the crack, so otherwise it'll lift your panel and it'll make the hole deeper. Okay, so the next step is, how do you screw it together? How do you clamp it? And the method that I use is I use these corner clamps by Wolfcraft. I have 4 of them, and that's really all you need is 4. Some big cabinets, sometimes you want to also screw an internal shelf at the same time, so you can get 6 if you need to. But I've been doing quite fine with just 4. So the cabinet is lying on its back, and then I just put a clamp along the top here, and I use a dead blow hammer like this to make fine-tune adjustments. So that everything is in alignment. Okay, one of the most important things is to have a completely flat workbench. This is a torsion box style workbench. Initially I built it on these blocks, which they have 3 different heights. I can rotate the block so I can make the table go up, down, basically 3 different heights. But lately I've just not been adjusting it, so the table height is around 30 or 31 inches off the floor, which is a good height. And then I added a couple stabilizers in the corners. But this type of workbench is extremely flat. It's very important that when you assemble something, you're assembling it on a table that's extremely flat. Now you could just, glue 2 pieces of plywood together, but that is not gonna make a flat tabletop. Torsion box, which you can rip on your table saw, and glue and screw together is gonna make a much flatter surface. So I highly recommend building one of these. Okay, so the next thing you'll notice is the cross rails on the top are partial. They're not full length, so and the ones on the back as well. This cabinet is going to have a full-sized 1/4 inch back panel, which is going to go on the cabinet at the very end. And this sidewall is going to be covered with a panel, and so the plywood is just going to sit here, and you won't ever see the edge of the plywood. But if this is going to be exposed, you can just push this in a 1/4 inch and push that in a 1/4 inch, and then when you put your back panel on, it's all flush in the back. All right, so here I go. Make sure there's about this much space between the chuck and the plywood. And make sure that your clutch is about 6 or 7 or 8. You don't want it too strong. And depending on how much weight is going to be on the shelf, you can put more Craig screws. This one is going to have 3 drawers, so there's going to be 0 weight on the bottom. So it doesn't need more than just three Craig screws. Also, I have a line on my Craig jig so that I can align this edge so that the distance between here and here is such that I can actually get to this hole with the cabinet in the clamps If you don't, then this slot will be further that way towards the edge and you won't be able to get a screw in there. So that's another trick that I learned. This is now in the way, so I'm just going to move it up. Okay, once all the screws are in, this is what I do. Stand it up. These are the back panels. Okay, here's a quick demo of the edge banding process. I just cut this to, it overhangs about 1/4 inch on either end. Center it, hold it in the middle, grab my iron, count to 5, 1, 2, 3, slide it over here. And then I just kind of dip it at the ends a little bit, run it along. Okay, this is important. The glue is still hot and melted, so I burnish it in. It acts like a clamp. I do that 10 times. Flip it over, cut the end, flip it. I'm left-handed. Take it back. Then I use this thing to trim. Focus. Okay. Read the grain direction. There's a bump here, so I go to there, and then I flip directions. Actually, no, it continues. You have to read the grain direction and always go uphill. Okay, so then you can make sure you use your fingers to tell if it's overhanging. Your fingers are much better than your eyes at noticing that. All done. Okay, now the back panels go in. Another important thing is when I cut these, I cut them all at the same time, including the bottom panel. I put them on my crosscut table on the table saw, and that ensures that every single thing is the exact right length. Okay, on a back panel like this, it's important to have screws going sideways and then a couple going up that way, and that will ensure the maximum strength. Quick thing to note is because this is pre-finished, it's super slippery, so you really have to clamp really hard. Otherwise it's going to move on you when you try to screw it in there. So, alright, that's totally flush. this. Okay, this cabinet is complete. Next. Okay, this next cabinet is, the bottom is actually going to be a shelf with lots of weight on it. So in that case, I'm going to double up and put 2 holes here, 1 in the middle and 2 more over here. I don't even mark it with a pencil. I just do it by eye. Okay, that right there is the line that I have marked, so that when I drill this hole and this board is in my corner clamps, I can still drive a screw into here. Okay, so why would you build a cabinet this way? Number one, the strength of the Craig joint is stronger. A screw going this way is going into the grain with the grain going this way, and it will hold a whole lot better than if you run a screw this way and you go into the layers this way, because it will tend to split the layers that way, and instead of cutting in, it will just wedge itself in, and that will be extremely weak because surface area will be reduced. So that's why the Craig method, the pocket screw method, is much better. The other reason I don't put glue in cabinets is if your cabinet is, let's say, an 1/8 inch too big, like you've just assembled and installed a whole wall of cabinets and then the last cabinet doesn't fit, you can take it apart and you can rip one side of all of these, and then if you have to, you can shorten the length of your screws on this side from 1 1/4 to 1 inch, and then you can reassemble it and then stick it back and it'll fit. So that's one of the advantages of using this method. So this method makes it easy. You just take it apart, you trim everything, and then you screw it back together. And I've only had to do that a couple times, but it is convenient. Okay, when you're first putting these in, I kind of tighten these all the way first. Because you kind of want to square it up first. Okay, now that they're both tight, now you make adjustments. So this has to go that way, so I'm going to loosen this one and just tap it. This has to go that way, so I'm going to tighten that, loosen this, and squeeze it, tighten it. Okay, so that is nice and flush. This is this has to be loosened, that has to be tapped in. That's nice and flush. That's nice. Now up here, I don't know what it is, but these tend to bend inward at the top. So I just use a parallel clamp at the top, halfway, and then flush it up. And then I tighten it more, so it's not going to move. This panel is a bit tall. I'm going to see if I can pound it down a bit. Just move, slide that back a little bit. All right, that's better. All right. Okay, one other thing is you only have one chance to screw this in with it totally flush. So you want to spend a little bit of time, make sure everything is nice and flush. Sometimes it's hard to draw these in, You can add an auxiliary clamp here, very bottom. Now I'm ready to go. Always use a dead blow hammer. These things are great. Presto. Change-o. Also, never drop a clamp on the floor. These plastic handles will break. You do that once and it'll break, and you have to buy another one. And they're like 40, last time I checked, they were about 40 bucks. Also, do not drop these on the floor. Broken handle. Every time it hits, I've dropped one, the handle is broken. So don't ever do that. This thing, it used to be like 20 bucks. Now these are like 30 or $40 each. And the big ones, the big ones are like 90 bucks. Okay, now you know how to make a cabinet carcass. Stay tuned for more videos about how to install the drawer slides and internal shelving. Okay, so here is the back of my cabinet. A lot of people, they don't use 3/4 inch blocks in the back, but I do because you can screw, this is how you screw it to the wall. You have a nice, strong, solid surface. The other thing is, if there's a bulge in the wall, this panel can be slightly inset, about 1 or 2 millimeters away from this edge. So that, let's say there's a bulge in the wall right here. If this was flush, it would push the cabinet forward with respect to the other cabinets. So what I do is this can be about 1 millimeter or maybe 2 inset. And then also, if this cabinet is going to be opened, you probably want a back on it. If it's going to be just full of drawers, you don't need a back. But if it's going to open and has a door, then you can put a back. And again, you can inset these a little bit further and then put a back panel here, or you can insert the back panel from the front. Either way works. If you insert it from the front, you might have to add a little strip of wood here so that you don't have a gap. That's why putting it on the back is easier. Okay, I forgot an edge banding edge, so I'll give you another quick lesson. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Trim. Trim. Clamp. Read grain direction. Trim. Trim. Sand edge. Use your finger to feel. Your finger can see better than your eyes. Your finger can detect 3/1000ths of an inch. Your eye cannot. It can only do about 1/32 of an inch. That's about 100 times better. You can see better with your fingers. Okay, on this cabinet I made a mistake. I had put the internal shelf as the top. And then I realized, oh, I need a shelf. And then I was like, oh, why do I have 2 extras of these, but I don't have an extra one of these? So I realized that this was going to be the top, these 2 blocks, and that was going to be the shelf. So I have screw holes here, but because there's 3 screw holes here, these are not going to align perfectly with the existing hole. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to screw this and that and that, so that if this one is just slightly off that one, it's not going to move it up or down, because these are already anchored. Does that make sense? Okay, in my next video, I'm going to show you how to install a fixed shelf. But I'll also discuss and show you how I drill the holes for a adjustable shelf. This cabinet is going to have a divider and a shelf, and pizza and cookie trays are going to slide into here, and cutting boards are going to go in there. And then there's going to be a shelf here and a drawer here. Drawer, shelf, vertical, vertical.